Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into the fascinating world of aviation by comparing flying a light aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 with the real life experience. Let's take a look at how these two experiences stack up, from the cockpit sensations to the visuals and the weather effects. Spoiler alert though, while the sim is incredibly advanced, it can't quite capture everything about real flight. Okay, let's get started.
I started flight simming way back when, on my ZX Spectrum. The graphics consisted of green for the ground, light blue for the sky and dark blue for the sea. It all ran at about 15 frames per second, and boy did you need to use your imagination. But it was my first real introduction into how an aircraft flies. Nowadays I like to fly Microsoft Flight Simulator on my PC. It amazes me just how realistic things have become, and nothing much is left to the imagination anymore. However, I will usually only fly airliners, and although I may use light aircraft when checking out a new airfield, I find the feel of these smaller aircraft a little bit unrealistic, and I put that down to how much of flying low and slow is felt and not seen. So in this video I want to compare different elements of flying against the sim and try to explain what I mean.
First, let's talk about the physical sensations of flying. In a real light aircraft, you feel every bump, every gust of wind and the vibration of the engine through your seat and controls. There's physical cues are crucial for situational awareness and understanding how the aircraft is behaving. Unfortunately, a desktop flight simulator simply can't replicate these sensations. In Microsoft Flight Simulator, you can simulate the visuals and sounds, but your body won't feel the G-forces during turns or the subtle vibrations of the engine and the air. This is a major difference, as those physical sensations are a key to developing a pilot's intuition and reactions during flight.
Now let's break down the different phases of flight and see how they compare.
Okay, so here we go, here's a takeoff, and let's have a look how different it is to Microsoft Flight Simulator. So we're at 27 left here at Andrewsfield. It's dry grass, there's a very light wind pretty much straight down the runway, and I'll talk you through the takeoff and just tell you the feelings that I'm getting rather than the actual visuals. We'll talk about how it feels. So at the hold, brakes are off, landing light can come on, just one last check, fuel's on, fuel sufficient, fuel pump's on, trim sensible, and controls are free, the things that are going to kill you. So here we go, so brakes off, feet, heels on the floor, because I don't want to hit the toe brakes. So adding power, feeding the power in, lots of right rudder to try and keep it straight, and we're picking up speed quickly. We need to be rotating around about 48 knots, just coming up on that now. The grass is quite bumpy and up it goes. Really is as simple as that, very much like Microsoft Flight Simulator, but as I say, you do get a lot more bumpiness, and there's definitely that big right boot of rudder that you need just as you add the power. We've got quite a high power to weight ratio on this. It's a small aircraft. Just going to stay low. There's an aircraft just passing above us who's in the circuit. And flap speed, flap limiting speed, and around we'll go and we'll follow him around.
Right, let's try the same thing in the sim. Okay, as the Sport Cruiser isn't available in the sim, I've chosen the Diamond DV20, which has got similar performance. In real life, takeoff is an exhilarating experience. You feel the acceleration push you back into your seat, and as the wheels start to leave the ground, there's a distinct change. Oops, pulled back a bit early there. As you leave the ground, there's a distinct change in the vibrations and the sounds. In the simulator, the visuals and sounds are well replicated, but you do miss that physical kick, and there's definitely less right rudder needed. So even though there's a lack of feedback regarding the feeling of the aircraft when taking off, the overall simulation is very similar. However, this was on dry grass. Once a slippery surface like this is wet, it all changes. When adding the power, you really feel the aircraft slipping slightly sideways on the grass, and there's a lot of lateral movement throughout the ground roll that is just not physically replicated in the sim.
Once you're in the air, cruising feels remarkably similar in both real life and the simulator in terms of visuals. However, in real life you constantly feel the subtle movements of the aircraft as it reacts to the air currents. In the sim you rely entirely on visual and auditory feedback.
For example, we're travelling along here at 5,000 feet, the autopilot's on, but it can't keep the plane super steady, even though the air is fairly calm. It's not too turbulent up here, but the aircraft is still moving around, and it's hard for you perhaps to see on the cameras, but it is something that you definitely don't get in Flight Simulator. I mean, the only thing they can simulate obviously is the movement of the plane, but you're not getting the feeling of it, and that unfortunately is a crucial part of flying a small aircraft.
Landing is one of the most challenging and rewarding parts of flying. In real life, you sense the change in speed and the ground effect as you approach the runway. The simulator does an excellent job visually, but without that physical feedback, it can be harder to judge the flare and touchdown accurately.
Okay, letting the nose drop, keeping it coordinated. No Hampstead traffic off. Charlie, do this full cruiser final runway 23 no Hampstead. So trying to get the picture now. We're going to put some more flap in. So we've gone to full flap. Wind is light. Speed's down to 60 knots. And I've got left rudder in to try and keep it straight as the wind is from the left slightly. We're going to fly through this gap here, keeping that speed around 55. And we'll get shaded by the, yeah, which is, there goes the, yeah, just as we came over the, oh, and it's the bumps you don't get in flight sim. Yeah, just as we came past the, and we can just about stop before we get to that horrible bit. Yeah, it's the bumps, sorry, the way that the wind, let's turn this around. So it's the way that the wind drops as you go past the hangar and those trees, especially in a crosswind. You really notice it. So let's try that landing in Flight Simulator.
I find landing in Flight Sim actually more difficult than landing a real aircraft. That lack of feel definitely makes things harder. Just crossing the threshold now and it's all very similar. But in real life you can feel the aircraft as it gets closer to the ground with that cushion of air between the wing and the surface, and it's this subtle feedback you just don't get in the sim. Hey, look at that, we've stopped just before that rough bit of ground, just like in real life.
Weather is another area where Microsoft Flight Simulator excels, but with some limitations. The simulator does an impressive job with dynamic weather systems, accurately depicting storms, rain and wind conditions. Flying near and through clouds in the sim looks stunning and is quite realistic visually. In real life, however, weather adds a layer of complexity and unpredictability. The turbulence you feel when flying through a cloud, the way the precipitation affects visibility and control, and the real-time decision making required are all aspects that a simulator can only partially replicate.
Okay, so here's a cloud. You can see they're fairly translucent. They are, let's show you, so fairly translucent as they are in Flight Simulator. And I think the Flight Simulator have got their, Microsoft have got the Flight Simulator clouds, or so we've got the Flight Simulator clouds absolutely perfect. And you can see, you know, they quickly, a cloud like this quickly goes, so you can't see through it. It goes thicker. And you can see off the top of it, there's the wind is blowing the top slightly, so that they're going pretty much in the direction of the wind. You can see it curls over at the top because it's not rising, it's not going any higher. You can see like the rest of the cloud are all at the pretty much the same level here because it's a fairly stable, you know, situation at the moment. We've got some cloud coming in from the west, and as you can feel the aircraft really, as I'm getting closer to this cloud, this murk, the aircraft's being bumped around. Again, something that I don't really feel like you get in Flight Simulator. And again, going through this, I'll get bumped here. Yep, there we go, there's the bumps.
So I wanted to get another pilot's views on how Microsoft Flight Simulator compared to the real thing, and I wanted to try a different aircraft type. So I contacted my mate Chris, who owns a lovely Rans S7 tail dragger aircraft, and I asked him to take me up for a flight and to tell me what he thought about Microsoft Flight Simulator and how it compared with the real world.
Right, ready?
Yep, ready when you are.
So, full power, we just get it rolling, stick goes forwards, little bit of dancing on the rudders, but not too much. We're going to put a little bit of left aileron in as well for the crosswind. And now we'll just tease it up and we're airborne. So how was that for your first tailwheel takeoff experience?
Yeah, very good. Very good. It's very dynamic, which is what I try and say on the video about flying sims and flying real aeroplanes, especially with these little light ones.
Yeah.
One of the things that you cannot ever convey, unless it's like a 3-axis mega expensive thing,
Yeah.
is the feeling that you get through your backside. The fact that I felt there that we were shimmying around as the tail came up, I wouldn't have necessarily get that feeling in Flight Simulator. And I think the other thing as well is that you get the actual noise, the whole environment.
Yes.
Even though I've got noise cancelling headphones on, the actual sounds that you get are, because they relate to the vibration as well.
It talks to you, the aircraft talks to you.
You can feel everything, you know, the whole thing's rattling away. Yeah, but this is real. When they say about stick and rudder flying, this is stick and rudder flying.
Seat to the pants flying. And if you notice here, and have you ever flown in a tandem seat aircraft as well?
No, never, not one behind the other, no.
So if I do, I think they call them Dutch rolls, if I do a slip, you'll feel your bum overtaking me.
Yeah, literally, you can feel the G of me trying to fall out of the seat.
And there you go, we go that way, and you don't really get that in nowhere near as much. And we'll come round in for a landing?
Yes.
So we'll put the speed back.
Well, if you can talk us through this landing then, Chris, and tell me what you're feeling and the way you're flying the aircraft, what you're looking at, and how you'd compare that to a flight simulator scenario. I suppose the other thing as well that we haven't mentioned is the fact that we've got this massive screen in front of us, which you're only ever going to get, maybe in VR you can get it, but
and the skylight above us as well. Yeah. So here, one thing the sim, again, I think is really not good at demonstrating is a forward slip to landing. So I've purposely coming in high. Normally I'd be half of this height. And what we're going to do, so I'm going to go full left rudder, almost full right aileron, and we've got a vertical speed indicator and we're coming down at 1300 feet a minute. So it can really scrub off some speed. And you can really feel that from the back as well.
I almost feel like I'm falling out of the seat.
Yeah, it is. And in the sim, well, there you go, look, we're nearly 2,000 feet a minute descent rate.
Yeah.
So as we come here, so we're going to go wings level, nose straight, and again we want to get the aircraft dead straight down the runway. There's a bit of a crosswind from the left, so we're actually going to put left aileron in, and we're going to land wing low for this landing, and we're going to do a wheel landing, which I'll talk about once we landed. But I've got concentrate a bit, and you can see the runway rises up, which is very deceptive. And I pushed the stick forwards, and I'm still pushing the stick forwards, and the stick goes all the way forward to actually purposely keep the tail up in the air, which gives you good airflow over the rudder, gives you great controllability in a straight line. And then obviously back on the ground, stick comes back. We can taxi as normal, and again, you can really pivot on a point with that caster-in tail wheel.
The GA stuff I do find a little bit of difficulty with, probably because we do fly GA.
But that's where, like the 808 Comanche, and no, I'm not sponsored by 808, but the 808 Comanche have really tried to capture that visceral experience, you know, the dashboard shakes, you can hear things rattling, when you stall, you can hear the stall buffet, you know, which, you know, they really have tried to capture that. And A2A, I love their products. I had all of their FSX products, and they really do a great job. But you're right, you're never going to get that seat of the pants flying. And like I say, that sound, like even there, sort of, you know,
yeah, everything shakes and rattles,
you know, and the aircraft talking to you. So
wonderful.
There you go.
Thanks so much for that. Cheers, Chris.
Right.
Well, that's it. I'll pop my cherry. Cheers, Chris. So while the flight simulator can't replicate some parts of flying light aircraft, it certainly helps you to hone your skills, and it helps you to develop a real knowledge of the systems of the aircraft that you're flying and a feel for it. I mean, one of the things that I love to do with Microsoft Flight Simulator is try different aircraft. So aircraft that I'd never be able to fly, and I feel like it gives you a really good understanding of flight, and it gives you a good feeling for how everything sort of works. And I would say in some cases, if you can fly the simulator, you can fly the real aircraft better because the real aircraft is actually easier. And as I say, I use it all of the time. I love my flight simulator, generally fly airliners, but yeah, it wouldn't be without it. So if you like to replicate any of these flights, I'd love to see them. I'd love to see how you get on. Maybe do Andrewsfield, because Andrewsfield there is some good scenery for it. Unfortunately, it is payware, and I'm not saying go out and buy it. I'm not sponsored by anyone to do with Microsoft Flight Simulator. If you do replicate any of the flights, please tag me and let me have a look at them, because I love to see that stuff. On a desktop simulator, there is nothing better than Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 at the moment, because just as I put this video together, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 has not only, it was revealed last year, it was revealed last year, but we've now got a lot more details on it, and it looks like it's going to be absolutely stunning. So really looking forward to seeing that, or playing with that, but that's not out until November. Until then, I'll carry on with 2020, and it still does a fantastic job. So take care guys, fly safe, and short field out.